Welcome to the Sabrina Sundari podcast, Right Relationship, where we talk about our relationship to all things. And today we're talking to Lieve. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Lieve de Lint. I'm an IFS therapist and I'm also a coach at Rise, which coaches couples and co-parents to really find their inner self, find their inner peace, and totally recreate their relationships with the other party. And I'm a neuropsychologist by training. And yeah, I have been enjoying your podcast, Sabrina.
Did you say neuropsychologist?
Yeah.
Oh, what does that mean?
It means that I did my master's in neuropsychology, so you really study more the brain.
Yeah.
And the field that you work in, that I used to work in for a couple of years, is more with a client population that has certain degenerative brain diseases or people with schizophrenia, for example. I worked with those patients in the hospital for a couple of years. They got TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, and it was a study to see if it would reduce their positive symptoms. And my job would be a lot of interviews, a lot of questionnaires, talking to the people and see over time if there would be any changes. And so that
Oh.
was what I used to do.
And
Yeah.
how does that help you with IFS, that background? IFS is internal family systems, by the way.
IFS is way more intuitive. It's way more subconscious. Like I came from sociology and I stopped that study after a couple of years because everything was theory. And I was early 20s and I wanted something real and tangible. So that is why I jumped not just to psychology, but something that could show the brain. Like I wanted to find something real. Um, and how it helped me with IFS. I mean, I'm actually okay now with going back to theory because I've just evolved myself and I don't think everything is set in stone. And of course, it's a completely different field, but it's a good question. It's there's 20 years in between those two, so uh, it was a journey, and I've never really thought about the link. So
Because in my mind, it's like completely opposite,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. So, when you approach somebody now, it's kind of not pathologizing them with
hmm,
neuroscience and saying, "Oh, let's be have some curiosity about what might be happening." And you
yeah,
mentioned to me earlier that you allow them to name their parts and what's happening for them, and you're kind of this guide. You're not telling people what's going on with them. So in my mind, it's different.
yes. So it is very different, and I remember being very young, and I already had that part-time job in the hospital. And I remember sitting there and I had to assess someone's positive symptoms, like how much hallucinations were there and how much deep-rooted beliefs were there related to these hallucinations. And there was this man, and he was joined by Greek goddesses a lot of the time during the week. So I was like, okay, when was the last time that you saw one of them? Oh, he says, I see them now. She's sitting on your shoulder, and I jumped up, which I realized I might not be really the best neuropsychologist here because there is always a part of me that thinks I don't know. We can assess and we can say this is what's happening to your brain, but I'm okay with the part that is like I don't know what he's seeing, and which goes maybe very far for some people, but I didn't like that way of doing things. Okay, even though I understand why we were doing that, of course, in that setting, but yeah, I knew it was not for forever.
Mm.
No.
It's so interesting because I think a lot of people in that field that you were in wouldn't have jumped because they're like, this person, I know there's something wrong with them. They're crazy. They're seeing things. So like whatever, right? But there's some part of
Exactly.
you, going back to IFS, there's some part of you that was curious and potentially believed that he was seeing Greek goddesses,
Well,
right?
I've always had this double part in me. I will always have a doubt, and I always try to keep doubting myself. And always is a big word. I'm sure I sometimes fall in my own traps, but I have never met anyone crazy. And I've heard stories, especially during that time, course, the stories were really extreme. This was definitely not even the most extreme ones. And but I've never felt that I met someone really crazy. They could have had patterns. They could have had thoughts that you might say, oh, they're darker thoughts, or but where I it's easy for me to see all the colors,
Right.
and yeah.
Did he tell you what the Greek goddess was doing on your shoulder?
She was just floating, and I don't remember which one it was. I mean, it was very specific. It was just floating around, and I just noticed myself like, okay, this means again that I'm 80% down with just assessing this, right? But there will always be I was annoyed with the whole system in general of us humans, and I'm pro science, but there it's good to always be aware that there's a part of us that we don't know it yet, and that's also of course science. But I was annoyed with that I just had to put on the paper and this is what's happening, and this was maybe a more extreme example, but there are also more subtle examples where we're very quick to assess, and in 20 years everything will probably be different again,
Yeah.
and that's kind of that's how it is, but it's also a bit disappointing in a way.
Yeah. Hmm. So with the current frame that you're in, with IFS and also your worldview,
Hmm.
and when you think about that man with the Greek goddesses, what part of him was creating that? Why did he choose Greek goddesses? What was it doing for his parts?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. No, there's
Mm,
no way we would go into any of that reasoning. It was very straightforward questioning.
okay.
So I would know, but I would not know what the function would be. It could be, of course, that it's a certain beautiful distraction, because all parts in us, what IFS says, is we're an internal family system of parts, and all parts are there to protect us. At the end, their highest purpose is always to protect us, which means also addictions. Addictions are great. They are there to protect us, to distract us from deeper pain and unresolved energies that we might not have processed fully. And so yes, I'm sure there might be the deeper core wounds that every human walks with. Um, that might be protected, but this is just me completely guessing. Like there's still a big percentage chance that
Yeah.
you know they were the hallucinations, but it's interesting. I'm very curious how that's gonna evolve. And
Are there restrictions around working with people with hallucinations?
mm, what do you mean in terms of?
Like part of parts work, IFS, can it be
Oh,
more
that's a good
harmful?
question. I wouldn't go there. I would not want to do that. No.
Yeah, it seems like it
Yeah.
could you know, make
Yeah.
it worse, right? Like,
Reinforce or like no, yeah. So that's I would not go there. No. Would
okay.
redirect. Yeah.
For me, IFS has never been that appealing just because I have had this like struggle, I would say lifelong struggle with sense of self and identity.
Hmm.
And my work is like coalescing and just really defining for myself, who am I in this world? And with
Hmm.
IFS, it just feels like being picked apart and discombobulated. And then I would even be more confused in a sea of my identities.
Interesting. Even though have you had IFS therapy? Because the whole goal is every time building your sense of self. Like let's say you're born and your self is your consciousness. Your self is the awareness of your thoughts and your feelings. You're not your thoughts and feelings. You're the one, you are the awareness basically. And it is building your sense of self, your solid self, and actually helping you remember you have that. And then it's almost like you're gathering your team members, you're gathering your parts. We're not getting rid of any of them. It's actually really you're meeting them better and helping them see each other to show that they're all often working in silos separately, like, and it looks like they have the opposite goal. Like your little joyous happiness feather, I had a client yesterday who told me, like, yeah, I'm brain based, I'm type A, I'm logic, and within 2 minutes she's like, what the fuck, there's a white feather in me. And that's her, let's say, a joyous part. And if you dig deeper, that joy part and the dark side, the deeper, darker parts that someone can find, and often things have color, that's why I say dark. When you get into conversations with them, it turns out that both of them at the end of the day want to keep you safe. They just do it in a very different way. The joyous part is redirecting you to whatever your patterns are, if you are in that state of being. And the darker part will do it in a very, maybe more pulling you down, grounded way. Let's hold back, or let's detach, whatever it is. But the practice is to have you as the witness, and your sense of self is growing more and more, and the parts are at one point less able to completely take over. They're still there because you need them to function in daily life, but they might function less extreme. I'm very curious about you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, do you
Yeah.
have any questions around that?
Yeah. I mean, what did you notice when you were in a session or when you tried it?
Okay, so disclaimer, my exposure to IFS has been like the IFS chatbot, and
Mhm.
also like just being in Flynn Skidmore's group
Yeah.
session. Yeah.
Yeah.
He uses some of those approaches. I don't think he's certified in it,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
those two I've kind of felt pulled apart, like even in terms of, thinking about breaking up with someone, for example, right? I think it would
Mhm.
make this, for me, the decision even harder because I wouldn't have a firm, clear answer. I'd be like, well, this part of me really loves them. This part of me knows they're toxic, right? So
Mhm.
like, how do I
Mhm.
get the final answer?
Yes, I understand. I understand. And that is actually that is a process of building that. Maybe you've found this in meditation. Sometimes when you're meditating, or you are really centering, there can be a moment of stillness, of just being, and finding the answer from the knowing, from this deeper intuitive feel. That is where, even with all the parts and all the chattering, that you are witnessing the parts left, right, left, right. And when you're still very identified with the parts, you're going to just be on the roller coaster. And by the way, we all are. I still sometimes am like that with the kids, that suddenly I'm in my triggered part and like, oh, retract. So that's it's a process. It's like you're going to be the wisdom tree, and all the leaves are your parts, and they can all do their own thing, and you can hear them out, but you will have such a deeper sense of knowing that that's where at the end the decision will come from.
Mm. Is that the process you used when you decided, or the dissolution of your marriage? That's something that you're going through right now, right? I know it wasn't fully your decision, but
Yeah.
did some of the process around that, did IFS inform that? So I have a sense of self, and this part of me wants to fight for the marriage. This part of me knows it's not correct. Did you have that?
I know I was a mess. No, I absolutely, I can really see my part. So it's very easy for me to go there. And so my system is I've been told easy, because I can quickly access, I can have visuals. So it's not, um, it's easy to hear the different parts. I think, I mean, I've been separated for a year and a half, and now divorced too. Um, I think oh gosh, there's been so much unlayering. I also knew this wasn't right, really. But you go into something, you invest in it, and um, no, I've had parts just lying to myself to keep going. I would just keep going, but I knew. And when you look back, you're like, okay, I knew I didn't want to know. Yeah, yeah, would it have happened now going forward? I mean, this last year has been completely transformative for me, and it would never happen again. I have a shortcut to my heart now.
Yeah.
So I will know quicker, and
Yeah.
I will know that I'm trying to convince myself out of it, or I will know that I'm rambling on out of fear, but maybe it is right. It won't happen again.
Right.
Um, and there was not just it wasn't also not just about the knowing or not. It was really, I think, also about I had this view that we have to fight for it and we have to make it work. And that was a part. I have a big managing part that is like, okay, there's an issue. Bam, these are 20 solutions. And this time we're going like very masculine in a way, like we gotta do this. And and I think actually that made it way worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is also very interesting. But um, I'm in absolute full peace with it, and I have been for a while. Before that, no, 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 that was
So
not.
interesting what you said about I have a part that lies to myself, lies to me. Like that's really amazing that you can identify that. Because
Oh
that
yeah.
me, that would sound like my internal sense of self, the core self would, how would I know that I was lying to myself, right?
Yes.
But
Oh
I need
no.
yeah. Okay.
No, no. I have.
Cover
It's
that.
yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
did you
No,
discover
no. How I discovered that? Hmm. Well, I just this is just since a few months because a lot of things changed for me, but I've just can fully embraced how intuitive I am, and I've always been, and I've seen, I mean, I've had predictive dreams, but I've also known within a few seconds if I would meet my next partner, whether they were my type or not. It's not just like, oh, that guy is my type. No, completely not my type. And I knew even before talking, like, oh, and it's literally also the experience is not, is also visual. It's like the air gets thicker. Like I've had three connections last year in different moments where even before meeting that person, and that was not even through a dating site, it I felt the air was thicker while driving, not even knowing who was going to be there, but I felt like, oh, there's a connection coming.
Mm.
And so it's very easy for me now also to reflect back to all the moments where I knew the marriage was over, and not that we never got married. We married on paper, but not my childhood dream with my love song when I was 9 years old and still is my love song. And but I knew it was over. Oh,
Okay.
so many moments that it wasn't the right person.
So there
And
was
I
a part of
couldn't
you that was
believe
like
I would meet the right person, to be honest. But
the
I
part of
like
you
myself.
that knew you were lying to yourself. You acknowledged it, you knew it, but you pushed it aside and you chose a different part that was excited and
Yeah. It was very clear there was the different part of play. So I had the lying part that would be just like, I'm going to keep going. It's okay. We'll get out of the dip. And I mean, you know what? If there were two people ready to go there and to grow and to be vulnerable with each other, we might have. I'm not saying we could not have. But was there a deep connection? No. I can now really say that. It was not enough. But I could have gone on until death, not knowing that it would have never been enough.
right,
And also knowing that I had to go through this and I will continue to go through this on my own, because I would have been a way better partner now than I was 2 years ago. I
right,
had to go through this because now I know, oh, most of a relationship is not about the other person even. I mean, it's important, but it's who you are with yourself, and like I've always been a bit maybe untraditional, but the vows I would want to say to someone if ever that would happen are also not traditional. It's really not self-centered but self-focused. It would be like, I don't need you, and if I feel I really need you, I will take extra good care of myself, you won't make me happy. I will make me happy. And if I feel I'm not happy, I will do the best and give as much as I can to myself so that whatever is there will overflow to you and the family. Or, I wouldn't want the traditional approach of like, oh, there goes my heart out of my chest. And yeah. So it was clear I lied to myself. It was also clear that I would have fought in my way for a longer period of time. And looking back, I did way too much. I should have let that go, really. And I remember a therapist, she was great. I saw her this summer again just to have coffee. But in California, we were talking about, I we were in patterns and I didn't feel seen at all, even though I tried to, like, hey, this is my view. Like, I think the highest, what was that quote? The highest form of love is consideration. And I think sometimes we might have in our own ways considered each other, but not, it didn't land. And this therapist was like, okay, what do you think, what would need to change? Like, what would need to happen for this to work? Because it really looks like you've done it all. Like, you've written ebooks on how to communicate better. And like, I tried. And I was like, I think we just need a heart attack and a brain bleed, but then just barely survive and then wake up and then realize, oh, life is short. Let's drop the little issues. And she was like, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna work. And I knew every word that I was saying, that it was ridiculous. But letting go and having really my dream of together family fall apart, and also the safety in a way that is that I think I didn't dare to think of that yet. I was, but I didn't want to. Yeah.
I'm kind of stuck on what you said about your therapist, that you had coffee with your therapist and she was giving you therapy advice over coffee.
No,
Is
no,
that
no, not during this coffee chat. No, no, no.
okay?
The therapy was done a few years ago, and no, no, just how are you doing? And yeah,
It's cool that you
yeah.
had that relationship after. That's
Oh,
amazing.
she's wonderful, and it's funny because I had two therapists in my, so I had only three therapists in my life. The two before, I was just it's awful because I'm a therapist, but I'm really not a fan of most therapies because it's easy to just talk along when you know yourself a little bit. And then they're like, well, it seems you know yourself pretty well, and that's it. I'm like, yeah, but this is not helping me. I want you to, I have blind spots, and I'm far from perfect. But I saw her on a database with all the therapists, and it was only pictures, and I just like, oh yeah, it's her, and I like her, and it's absolutely, it was just good. She's wonderful. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm curious about dating and like with IFS too, just as a frame keep in mind while dating.
Yeah.
So I was recently interacting with somebody and I knew that he wasn't the final one.
Hmm.
But then I had all these I would could characterize as parts come in saying like, oh,
Hmm.
it's fun. It's winter. Let's just have some like
Hmm.
companionship and some fun. And oh, he's like, there was just all these parts. And the biggest one that was shouting was like, you're repeating a pattern of like an emotionally unavailable man.
Hmm.
Very clear that they're not available for a long term. But then I noticed like I had a chemical kind of wave when I saw them where I was like, oh, I'm swept up in this like
Hmm.
this delight, right? And this
Yeah.
excitement. And then that takes over all the parts, all the logic.
Yes.
And they become like irrational for a few moments, right?
Yes.
And that can go into the whole relationship where irrationality is leading. So
Yes.
how do you deal with in your own life when that happens and you're conscious that you have these parts that you have to be aware of, but also the chemicals are there that you cannot logic your way out of?
Hmm. Um, I will have to think about this for a moment because I've been very aware of my patterns, and I've noticed in dating suddenly that my energy changed, and I would go into an old pattern. Like I don't believe like attachment can change, right? Attachment styles can change between relationships. It can also change within the relationship if you are daring enough to heal together in a way. Um, how would you deal with that when there can was? I think first the biggest thing is you being aware of it. Like I know what it's like. Being aware of is this connection, is this going to provide me the right balance of peace and harmony and the right amount of triggers? Because I do believe if you have a connection that you're going to be triggered because there is more there's more closeness.
Yeah.
And maybe I should just not say you in general. For me, I think that is the case. um I mean, you were saying it, if you know already that he's not the one, you know.
Mhm. But you get overtaken by your physiology, right? Uh,
True, yes, yes. But then once you're home and the dopamine goes down and the excitement goes down, there might be different feelings coming up.
I
Maybe there's going to be a longing or a missing or a worry, or that's, I think that in some cases it's good to then assess, to look back on it and see, okay, what
Mhm.
what was this?
I think
Because
that's it.
are you asking yourself to stay in that connection but not be overtaken by chemicals and not go to Bangtown? Is that what you're what you're asking?
Bangtan. My no, what ended up happening is I just kind of really recognized that what was attracting me was partly the pattern, right? Like I was getting off on the emotional avoidance. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
And and then I just made a conscious decision like I'm interested in people that are very clear and consistent and
yes,
are full yeses. And I'm not interested in like spending any more time with uncertainty. And
yes,
uncertainty, I know my system loves uncertainty in a certain way. Like it's very sexy. It's activating to not know. Am I loved? Am I not loved? Am I abandoned? Or am I secure? Like, that's my own deep nervous system patterning from my childhood. And
yeah,
I really bring that in the room with every decision I make. So with
yeah,
this person, I really pulled back and I said, okay, this is another kind of test of like, is she going to go for it? And I'm like, I'm pulled back. And even to the friendship, because the person wanted to have a friendship. And I'm like, I don't think the friendship is pure, right? Because if
yeah.
there's an attraction there and there's a flirtation, it's not pure. So I need to, yeah, pull it
Mm,
back.
yeah.
So it's hard being a grown up and making like unfun decisions, but you have to be
It
unfun.
is. No, but that is the thing. And you know what? I can only talk for myself, but I think I had a very emotionally unavailable father, and last relationship, the marriage. To be honest, I think if you have a certain vision of love, if that is what you want, I think we should take off the table that it's gonna feel good for a while, to be honest. Especially when you come from patterns and parents that didn't have a relationship that was very modeling. It's uncomfortable either way. Being with someone who is emotionally unavailable and having that attraction, that is uncomfortable too. There's going to be excitement, but there are going to be times where you're not going to feel good about it.
Yeah.
It's not just you're not just in the high, you're gonna have the lows too. So that part, okay, that's uncomfortable. Stepping away, also uncomfortable, because they're going to be part of like, oh, but this, but that, but this, and you're going to try to rationalize it. But then the other part, meeting someone who is emotionally unavailable, available, sorry, but that is scary as heck. At least that's what I've
Yeah.
experienced. Someone looks at you and is like, that person could see me.
Yeah.
That is really scary if you're not used to that.
Yeah.
So, and there will be, then you have that anxiety and also at least for me, the sort of feelings of panic of, oh, this person is there and actually could be emotionally available or understanding me,
Mm.
it's also not going to feel comfortable for a while,
Yeah.
even though you might know it's right. So it's really hard. You have to indeed keep a certain view on it all at all times, because your feelings are not going to always inform you what is right.
Mm.
No,
Yes.
you're going to be probably very anxious if you have a relationship that is normal, or
Yeah.
feel very bored, like, oh, I feel nothing for this person today. Oh, that might mean that I don't care about them, and maybe I'm not in love, and maybe oh gosh, I think it's going to be challenging if you want to make a change in general. Yeah.
I'm curious about that because what you said earlier in the conversation was, in a few seconds if the person is for you or not.
Yeah,
But
I think so.
if you're coming in with all this history and patterning of, I know that if they're healthy and stable, a part of me is going to be uncomfortable or
Yeah.
bored. So how can you
Yeah.
bring that to the table when you also have the story of, I know in a few seconds?
Maybe I should not say one person, but for example, I've realized and I've learned that the last year that for me, I would want, if I ever really go back into a relationship with someone, it needs three things. It needs love, basic form of love. That it needs a base of friendship, and it needs connection. And connection you cannot grow. The connection is there or it's not there. And friendship, you can grow a beautiful friendship and a beautiful relationship, and you build memories and you get to know the person, and then you might feel butterflies and you get together. That could be. But then connection is there or not. And for me, I've noticed that at least with three different people, that there was a connection. I'm not romantically involved with all of them, but they're all in my life. And I also know it was very mutual. It was just, oh, I see you as a human being, and you see me as a human being on a deeper level. And that's going to be my baseline to even, no, not to go further. You can have a lot of fun with people that you just get to know, and you can talk for hours, and that's okay. But there's that deeper connection that already really informs, like, okay, this could be something way bigger for a longer amount of time. At least that's going to be my way of informing.
Okay. So what you're saying is in the first few seconds, you know the connection is there. And then after those few seconds, you can grow the friendship and the love.
That's going to be my approach. Maybe in 5 years I'm going to come back to you and be like, hey, I added a few more, or I took some away. But I no I that's going to be the approach. And that's what I've noticed. Like, if I look back at let's say the men I met last year, and again, not all in dating form, but it was like that, like like very fast, like, oh, there's something here. Now I'm not sure if everyone has that, but I think it's like, I've had that since childhood with people. I've walked on the street and saw someone as like, oh, I'm going to be connected to that person, and then that would happen. And so for me, it goes fast. I'm sure it could for other people mean that you go on 2 dates and then realize, oh, I know why I feel so comfortable with this person, or I know why I feel nervous with this person, because I feel this person can see me. Like, whatever it is, it doesn't mean that it's always going to feel good,
Yeah.
but there might be something very real underneath. And I think maybe for some, the only way to find out is to date with a lot of people,
Hmm.
because someone can be great and you can have a good time, and somehow it's not that you're going to continue.
Yes.
um,
With all those people you met last year that you had the instant connection with, are you saying that the issue was the love and friendship couldn't grow? Is that why you didn't stay with them?
oh, no, I mean, one was married. I'm not going to go there. But it was clear there was a connection. It was just no, and one is not, we're not romantically involved with each other, but we're in each other's lives, and that could, it's I'm sure there are more people that could be like that. And one was through a dating site. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like, oh, I'm gonna sit in the evening with my notebook and think, oh, would there be friendship, would there be love? That's not the case. It's sometimes there are a lot of patterns going on too, like the baseline of this connection, like, well, this is clear, there's something special here. um with some, I think it would be not honest to say that I could be friends with all of them, when there's also the attraction. But it depends if you if you both behave and you are like you want to stay in each other's life, maybe. But
So
um,
you don't think that a friendship needs to be pure? Like there shouldn't be a sexual energy or attraction? Because in my mind, that's not friendship, that's courtship. Like we must have both dated, like have been friends with men who we thought were our friends, and then eventually it
mhm.
came out that they were only our friends because they had a hope or they liked us or they
Yes,
were waiting. And that's not
yeah,
a true friendship. That's courtship, in my opinion. Because now we're not friends anymore. It was since
it's yeah, okay. So yeah, I've had some friends who, since I divorced, were like, "Hey, you should fly over," blah, blah, blah. And like, oh, well, in some cases, why not? And in some cases, I have certain friends in my life, male friends, very attractive guys. No, from my side and from their side, we're friends. Like, and that's it, at least for me, that's very clear. But I'm not against. Here's what I think. Okay, if we as a human species keep evolving and keep learning and to manage our egos and to keep, let's say, internally evolve. I mean, I think maybe in the next 300 years, the world is going to be one big orgy, and we're all going to be happy. I'm not against. I think it's normal yeah, courtship, friendship. Yeah, it's this endless. It's this long question, right? Can men and women be friends? I think we can be friends until some of us will get drunk one night and then we're not. But it doesn't mean the friendship isn't real, right? It's like except if you say like, hey, this guy wanted one thing, and once he got it, he was out of my life. He was also not my friend anymore. Yes, and then I agree that was not real. But it could be that you're friends and one night you get drunk and you're like, hey, let's be really friendly, but still the friendship love is there and you can continue. It doesn't make it unpure for me. It's just like you're also just human beings. It's yeah.
it's fair. Yeah, I feel even with like um say if you're a straight person, you might still have an attraction to some of your female friends, right? It's like this
Yeah.
eros love, like just appreciation and like really seeing
Yes.
the beauty. And yeah, I think
Yes.
what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how would people find you if they want to work with you for IFS?
They can go to my website or my Instagram. So my name is lievedelint.com. Lievedelint. And yeah, or go to Instagram, and it's also my name.
Beautiful. And is there anything else you wanted to share before we close?
No, no, I think I'm good. It was really nice talking to you.
Excellent. Okay, I'll put her information in the show notes, and I highly recommend seeing her for any support you need around all your parts.
Thank you.